Alright everybody, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to give you a review for Elden Ring. I want to start this video off by letting you know that this personally is my favorite From Software game. I highly rate this game, and later in the review you'll see why I would recommend this to almost anybody. From Software fans or not to any of their games, I would recommend this. Okay, so with that out of the way, I also want to mention that I do have experience with these games, from software games in general. I've played Demon Souls, all the Dark Souls, 1 through 3, Bloodborne. The only game I haven't played was Sekiro. Now, I don't think that's necessarily necessary. There's definitely features from there that are shown or uh, inspirations for features in Elden Ring, but I don't think you need to play that to get a full scope of what's involved in this game. So I want to start off with what I think are less subjective things to look for in this game, less subjective things, and then we'll move and then end the review. We'll talk about the more subjective things. So first, I want to talk about your character creator. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that From Software games are any different than any others when it comes to RPGs or things like that. They're, all the games have an extensive character creator, and Elden Ring is no exception in that aspect. You can make your character look like almost anything, from male to female, different skin colors. You can go all crazy across the spectrum, different hairstyles, again, different colors, all sorts of things. It's definitely not the most extensive character creator in any game, but it does have more features than a lot do. So that's great for anyone that likes to create their own character. That's one great aspect. Now, after you after you create your character, you get to choose a class to start with. And if you haven't played a From Software game or any of the Dark Souls games, you might think that this choice is very important, and it is, but only in reference to the early game, because your class determines your starting skill point values, and then some weapons you get, or maybe some sorceries if you go with like a spellcaster or with miracles or something along those lines. But when you start getting past the starting area and you start leveling up, your character can become whatever you want. You can boost your skills, and put points into them to hold any weapon. Do anything, cast any kind of sorcery. Some classes will, of course, need more investment in some skills to reach the skill level you need to use certain weapons and sorceries, but in the end, there's no difference between, say, a samurai, a warrior, and a sorcerer in what the skill value gives you. A 10 in a sorcerer is no different than a 10 would be for a warrior when it comes to vigor or endurance. It's just that they might start at a different value and then you might need to level it up. So that's good. So no one's locked out of anything. You just gotta level up a skill depending on your starting class. And yes, different people will recommend different starting classes that are easier or harder. And just like in all the From Software games, there are some classes that are easier to start with. Personally, I always start with a sorcerer class. Now, my character right here is high enough level that I can do anything, so I don't need to stick to sorceries. But I would say some of the easier classes would be like the samurai, because you get a katana, and that comes with bleed, and bleed is one of the most OP status effects in this game. You should be fine with that. Or a warrior, because then you get a shield and you have more vigor, so you get more health or more endurance. You have more stamina, so that'll work better for surviving attacks and blocking attacks. Whereas if you pick something like the sorcerer, right, you're gonna have to start off with, you're gonna have less vigor, so less health, Your armor is not going to offer as much protection, so you get more careful. So in that kind of play style, you're going to want to more focus on rolling and dodging than just straight up blocking. Now, in these games, if you've never played them, it is good to learn how to dodge rather than block, but different attacks from enemies require different actions. Sometimes it's better to block than roll, and vice versa. But that's besides the point, right? You choose any class and you can level up your character and you can specialize in anything if you want, or you can make a all well-rounded character. Different players do different things, but it's all possible, right? But that's not even the juiciest part, right? So you get past your character creator, you get your class, and you start the game. And if you ever played a From Software game, right, you get a tutorial. You're used to the tutorial. It's easier enemies, a boss that's probably going to kick your butt. But same old thing, just different area. For people that aren't familiar to it, it might seem a little hard, but the tutorial, there's instructions on how to do all the different actions that you need to know for early game that are important for you to learn. And I cannot stress this enough. You do need to learn those skills, blocking, dodging, how to counterattack. These are all important things that will help you. I mean, the most experienced players still struggle if they don't use all of the features that the game allows you to defend yourself and attack. So the starting out area can be a little hard for some players. And that's all right. You got to make it past that point, though, and then you can explore the open world, which we will talk about later. But once you get to that point, you can, again, start leveling up your character and specialize until you want, and then you can focus on what strengths or armors or abilities will help you best. So that's all for the starting. Let's say we get into the meat of the game, right? We get into the meat of it, and you want to know how it looks. Oh, well, you can see on your screen right now how the game looks. Now, this is just my character and some of the armor, which, again, we'll talk about later. But the open world is vast, right? This is Limgrave, where you're going to start. As you can see, it's more like grassy plains, and then we have lakes, and, we have different stone structures. We have castles. We have big open lake areas, mountains to climb, more castles, more buildings, all the such. There's more snowy areas up here in the mountains. Now myself, as you can see, I haven't explored everything. I have not completed the game, but I feel like I have seen enough of it to tell you what it will be like in a sense. And yes, as you go on, the game does get harder because the enemies do get tougher and the bosses get tougher in further areas. But my recommendation, now, technically this is not part of the review. This is not supposed to be gameplay, but for any new players to not just the From Software games, but I would say any game is open world wise, exploration is important. Yes, you can. This is where you'll come out of into the open world. You can go here to the castle and keep going, right? That's the path you're meant to go on. That's all great and dandy, but you're going to struggle. Now, if you take your time and you don't necessarily need to explore every location, but if you explore around and go to areas that you don't necessarily need to, you'll find equipment and weapons and gear to help you, better armor to protect you, weapons you might not have the levels for, but you can always invest your character, like I said. That'll be stronger than what you start with. It is always good to explore, especially in this game. It's so open world, and the difficulty level between enemies and bosses can be so varying that, yes, you will need to explore to find better gear to, in some cases, to survive. Because it's not just about skill level or getting better. Sometimes some things are near impossible if you're don't have the right gear for it. So exploring is important. But again, uh, technically that's not part of a review. That's just some advice. But as you can see, the map's varying. Then we have well, if you played FromSoft games and you haven't played this one yet, we have your poisonous swamps. Now, technically in this area it's called rot, but it's just an advanced form of poison. Wow. FromSoft has an advanced version of poison because poison and poison swamps haven't been harsh enough in the games already. But I'm not complaining. I'm just saying some people do. But it is warranted. That is all I will say about that. Now, I can't give you a full show of every single weapon in the game. Like I said, I haven't beat the game yet. I haven't been everywhere. But I'm going to show you this, right? I have tons of weapons. Now, to be fair, some of these are duplicates. Some were dropped to me by a friend. But a lot of these I have, again, through exploration. Gotta go to caves, gotta go to catacombs. You'll find a lot of great weapons. And yes, not all weapons are of equal quality. But as you can see, this game has tons of weapons. And like I said, you gotta find what works for you. There are weapons that are more for our strength guys, our dexterity, or if you want a quality build that invests in both. There's weapons that, gain attributes and gain more damage if you focus on both those. You have weapons for your sorcerer, so they're not just stuck with magic. If you've never played any of the games like this, you're not just stuck with your sorceries and your staves. You get weapons that gain damage depending on your arcane stats. So that's good. And as you can see, we have your daggers, we have your short swords, we have your long swords, your great swords, your scythes, your stabs, your spears, all the things you can imagine that it's in any other game you can get here. Now, like I said, not all weapons are of equal quality. Some are not very great, and then some are amazing. Actually, OP, need to be nerfed in my opinion, but you do have great weapons. Great variety. And like I said, you have to explore to find a lot of these great ones. A lot of them are hidden in faraway places you never have to explore. You never have to go there. You're not told to. You gotta explore. But it is great. I mean, look at this selection of bows. And this is just some of the bows. Like I said, I'm early in the game. I would say by watching reviews, well, not reviews, guides and such, I'm probably 20% through story and 10% through explorable locations, because there are just so many caves, so many catacombs. And the thing is that if you watch any video, almost everyone's going to tell you there's probably going to be years until we find every little location. Some things are below cliffs in high places that you think, oh, you're not going to be able to climb. But again, we'll talk about parkour and moving around in a little bit. But that's just the example of weapons. Oh, I didn't show you the armor. Armor goes the same as weapons. They're totally different. A lot of different. Now, if you play From Software games, the Dark Souls games, you know they have a lot of different armor and weapons. This is not a new concept. This is not even a new concept in guards of any game. I mean, you play Borderlands. I mean, obviously you get tons of different armor and weapons. They're almost any open world RPG has, I would say, vast majority have it where there's tons of different weapons and armors. Now, I don't know if this is true by the numbers, but I feel like Elden Ring has more armor and weapons than any other From Software game. And I believe it. Because, like I said, I'm not very far. And I have tons of selection of different gear. Of all different kinds. And you gotta have fashion souls. Now, you'll understand that if you've played the games before. And if you haven't, well, sometimes some people like to prioritize their fashion, how they look, over versatility. Now, look, I can wear heavy armor, but it is hideous. Now, some people might like the look of it, and that's fine. You're welcome to your own opinion, but personally, I think it looks hideous. But that's that. Now, for the mechanics of the game. right? Probably one of the most important parts of any open world is the mechanics. Now, again, if you've played any other From Software games, the Dark Souls games specifically, you're used to a lot of the features, right? You're used to how the world works, and you have your sites of grace. They're like your bonfires. But if you're not familiar, these are like your checkpoints, right? You can come here, you can rest, you can restore your health or your FP points to cast your sorceries and miracles, and it'll reset the enemies, or like the uh, materials you're able to pick off the ground, or the animals around to gather more materials. They'll respawn, right? And that's just, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with the game or games similar to this, that's how that works, right? But new to the series, well, not technically new. There's always been a kind of jumping mechanic in the Dark Souls games, From Software games, but usually it's mapped to one of the thumbsticks, or you can map it to a different button. But now we have our own individual jump button, its own feature, and with it comes parkour. Now, like I said, in other in other From Software games, there is parkour. There's cliffs, there's jumps you can make that are hidden areas for hidden items. But in this game, it is crazy. You are not restricted at the least. Like I said, this game is crazy. If you looked it up, and even if you've played the game and you looked it up, there are people that are able to beat this game under 2 hours, because I don't know the exact number, but I think it's only 3 bosses you need to fight to beat the game. The rest are skippable, or there's a way to climb it. Like, for instance, the boss over here, you can skip this boss. I wouldn't recommend you skip the boss, but you can skip the boss by going around the castle, around the cliffs. And you would achieve that with your mount, which is totally something new to the From Software game. Well, honestly, I don't know about all their games, but the Souls games, which this is taking reference from, but yes, a mount is new. You can see you have double jump on your mount. Very versatile. There are some areas that are unreachable without your mount. So it's a good thing that you can always call your mount. Now, obviously, you can't call your mount in, caves and the such, and there are some areas of the open world map where you will be blocked off, or during certain events, you will be blocked off from your mount. But in general, in everyday play, you are going to have use to your mount. You'll have mounted combat, which is a new thing as well, which is very fun, by the way. But again, that's more of a subjective thing. Some people like it, some people don't. But yes, your mount is very versatile in getting around, getting to those high cliffs, or surviving big jumps. It's very useful. But that's enough for our mount. As you can see, if you're used to these games, you're used to most of the mechanics. But the new ones like mount and mounted gameplay and jumping, and then all the different parkour you can do in this game to find items and the such, it's amazing. It truly boosts the game. Now, if this was just another regular game like the Dark Souls series, this game would be excellent, right? But with these new features, it brings a new height. There's a reason why this game is being rated so highly. And yeah, these aren't the sole features. It's mostly the open world and all the great things you can find. But trust me, the jumping mechanic is big to fans of these games. Okay, so we briefly went over mechanics. More you'll have to learn on your own. But let's talk about NPCs. Now, NPCs, and this is later part of the review, is a more subjective thing. You will either hate or you will love NPCs. I can't tell you that they're great. I like most of them. Again, that's subjective. But if you've played any of the From Software games, the Dark Souls series, mostly, you'll know that some of the NPCs are loved and some are hated. And it is no different here from what I have seen. Now, like I said, personally, I love most NPCs, but they are great. I feel like since this game is so big, obviously there's more NPCs everywhere than there is in any other From Software game. And with that does come a lot of different feelings towards either liking or hating them. But they are so varied in story and background and emotions, from vengeance to happiness to grief to sadness, revenge and all this. But that's for you to explore on your own and find. Again, that's subjective. You have to find what NPCs you like or not, and what quest lines you want to follow. Yes, yes, and there's NPC quest lines, and with there being more NPCs than ever, there are more NPC quest lines. Pretty much anyone you come across is, except for the merchants, is probably going to have a quest line. Now, it might be short, it might just be go here, and you're done, but there usually is a reward, like a weapon or uh, some kind of token or medallion or something at the end of it. Worth doing, but again, that's up to you. But there's a lot of NPCs and a lot to see from a lot of different motivations and emotions. But I'm going to show you the merchants. Now, obviously, if you're starting out the game, most likely, since this is where you start, you're probably going to reach the church here first, and it's going to be your first, well, not technically your first NPC you're going to see, but your first merchant. Now, the merchants are very useful, and there are tons of them all over the map, and they sell varied things. You know, they a lot of merchants will sell different sets of armor. Some won't have armor. Some will have the cooking books to make different things. All sorts of and useful items. So there's tons around the map. This particular one, now, like I said, I haven't played the whole game, but this is the only one so far that actually involves a quest. Like if you kill this guy, you're locked out. As far as I know, there's no other way to do it because he gives you the certain emote you got to do to activate the quest. But besides him, I don't think there's any merchant. Now, I don't recommend killing merchants, but if you do, they will drop something called a ball bearing that you can take back to your home base. So that's some things for people that do like to kill NPCs. Now, for my final point, because it's starting to get along the story. Now, like I said, I'm leaving the more subjective things for end. The story is probably one of the most subjective things. I've played plenty of open worlds where people love the world, they don't love the story, or vice versa. And the Dark Souls series, From Software games are no different in that aspect. Some people love the story, don't care that much about the world, or they love both, or they hate both, whichever way. Now, personally, I like the story in this one, but to be fair, it is similar in ways to the Dark Souls series, where it's go here, kill this boss, get something for it, to go towards the end, to do something for something, right? Now, I don't want to spoil nothing, but yeah, it's similar in the concept, but the way they do it and the way the bosses are and their characteristics are different enough, or just vastly different in some cases, that I think it's done better. Again, that's subjective, something you'll have to find out for yourself, but I think it is great. I think it is an improvement. Uh, and I know I'm highly rating this game, but a lot of people are. And like I said, I'm someone who's played the games that, this is taking its inspiration from. I mean, this isn't technically part of the Dark Souls series, but that's where it's getting its foundation from, is those games and Bloodborne and Sekiro. So I have expertise in these fields. I've played those games. I've done everything in those games. I've, completed those games several times each. And yes, I can tell you, in my opinion, that vast majority of the mechanics that have been carried over or tweaked or added are superior in this game and better. Some of them are more subjective, yes, but some of them I can say are more towards factually just better, or work better in an open world environment than they did. And I know that people were worried about, FromSoft, making an open world game. How's that going to look? I think it came out well. I think it worked excellent. And, the game's only been out a month, but people seem to really love it. And I agree. Now, there are some problems with the game. I'm not saying it's completely perfect, like I said, but not there's no game that is completely perfect, right? And FromSoft is no exception. Their games come out with problems, but they are fixing things, which is better said than a lot of other developers. Now, some weapons, like for instance, uh, you'll get more damage because it'll scale off your attributes, right? And like I said, you need to level up some of your skills or your attributes to be able to wield weapons or use them properly. And some of the scaling on like arcane weapons isn't working. and that's not perfect. And there were other problems with the game. Now, I have not confirmed this myself, but apparently there are people claiming that the game itself is crashing their system and breaking their system. I can't confirm that. I do not know if that is true. I have not had that problem, but me alone not having that problem doesn't mean anything. So take that as a word of warning, but I do your own research on that. I can't find anything except for a few people on Reddit. I mean, I'm sure there's other places or on Twitter or something, but I can't confirm that it's actually true and not just the PS5 itself, or because it seems to only be a problem with PS5s. So it doesn't seem to be the PS4 or Xbox Series X or S or Xbox One. It doesn't seem to be any of those. As far as I've seen, like I said, I haven't seen much of it, so I can't say there's no one with no problem. But I've only seen people report a problem on the PS5, and it's only been a few reports, and they're saying that the game crashed and it crashed their system. I can't prove that, but and besides that, and what is personally my biggest gripe is the co-op, and this is my pretty much my one sole but major complaint about this game. Now, if you've played open world games, a lot do have co-op, and I think a lot do better than this game did. Now, if you've played the previous Souls games, you understand that you can summon people or you can play by yourself. And when you summon people, it is risky because they can help you get up to a boss and defeat a boss, right? Which is great. If the player knows what they're doing and they're great, they can help you. Because in the previous games, and same as in Elden Ring, enemies and the boss get a health increase and a damage increase depending on how many players are in your world. I don't know the percentages, but in this game it does seem to be unfairly high. Now, like I said, my character is high level, right? My character is nearly max level. And I'm not saying I struggle. I do co-op, and I do wreck enemies, but they do damage, and they have health. Like I said, I don't have the percentages, but I've played co-op, and it feels like when I've been doing early game areas that in some cases it feels like it's more than double the damage and almost nearly double the health. Now, again, this is true for the previous games, but I think they need to tweak it. I think it's a little unfair because in this game it's a little different, right? Now, I understand that most people are going to be summoning people to help with bosses. That makes sense, right? That's how it's always been. That's how it will probably always be if there's any form of co-op. But this game is different. This isn't like the other Souls games where there's like a pretty much linear path and then maybe some different areas. This is open world. You can go almost anywhere at any time. Yes, some things and some bosses you can't get to, but you can go to any cave or any catacomb you can reach and you can survive to get to pretty much. Now, like I said, there's some areas and some bosses you can't get to right away. Obviously, you can't explore the whole map. But, so, with that, some people want to play with their friends. And I'm not saying that anyone out here wants to play the whole game with their friends, but when it comes to open world games, some people do. Some people want to sit down and play an open world game entirely with their friend. And I understand that that's not what Elden Ring is necessarily for. But I don't think this co-op system was built. Okay, I don't want to say it's not built well. It works, right? You can be summoned, you can invade, you can kill other players. That's all works fine. I'm sure there's connection area issues here and there, but it works, right? But my biggest gripe is that and maybe I'm doing something wrong, but it doesn't seem to make sense, right? So in all the catacombs and caves, there's a boss. And you can summon someone from the site of grace inside the cave and help them go all the way through and then help them kill the boss, right? And then when you kill a boss, whether in a cave or catacomb or in the open world out in the field, you get travel back to your world. Now, it doesn't seem to necessarily be a problem at some locations where you can, beat a boss in a catacomb, and then your friend can summon you outside the catacomb. Some places it doesn't seem to be a problem. You can do that. Other places it does seem to be a problem. You can't do that. I can show you. Where was it now? It wasn't. Okay, for instance, here. I played co-op with somebody, and we beat the boss in the catacombs uh, completely fine. But then they weren't able to summon me outside the catacombs to help with the boss at the minor Erdtree. And in other catacombs, they were able to summon. Now, from my understanding, and from what I read online, is that once you defeat a boss in a catacomb or a cave, you can't summon someone there. Like, co-op is disabled. And that's supposed to be the same for the open world. Like, this boss would be out in the open world. You could run past and all that. Now, I don't know, like, if there's a certain vicinity that this effect happens. Like, okay, we defeat this boss, and what, all lower area can't be co-op? Or if it's just a certain area, and then we gotta go outside that radius? I don't know. Because then it seems like, well, if I go to, oh, I don't know, another catacomb, oh, or cave, they can summon me. So it just seems kind of dumb that you can be summoned one place, defeat a boss, but you can't be summoned outside of it. Or you can defeat a boss that's near something, but then you can't be summoned inside of it, or you can. I think that's dumb. Like I said, the game's not built for you to sit around with your friends and have someone help you through the whole game. But some people like to play open world games that way, that have co-op. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's a majority. If I had to guess, I would say the majority want to play it by themselves and have some help sometimes. But there are people out there that want to play the game with someone. So when you're being kicked out of the world, that sucks. And it sucks in this game because you're going to be summoned back, right? And you have to use items. Now, to be fair, those items are craftable, and it's easy to find the materials to craft those. Okay, so that's not much of a problem, but it's still something you have to gather or drop for a friend for them to summon you or summon them. And it's a problem. I wish they didn't have it where you got kicked out of the world, because what if you still want to go explore something else, right? Or like for instance, if you're out in the field and you try to go to a catacomb, if you have someone, you can't go there. There's a fog gate. Like, these are things that they would like do in the old Dark Souls games, but it doesn't really make sense for an open world game where people want to play with their friends. Yeah, no, me personally, no, I like to play the game solo, and I don't really need to summon anybody to help with a boss. I haven't found a boss difficult enough yet to have to summon somebody, but there's people that do. This game is new, right? And I don't really want to get into a debate about difficulty. Some people find this the most difficult game yet, and some people don't. I will agree that depending on how much you explore and the gear you find, this game can be very easy, or it can be the most difficult. But the thing about that is that since there is that level of discrepancy between the areas and the bosses, new people that have never played the Souls series can get into it and actually have a chance. Or like summon a friend to help them, because there's no level restriction. You can be level 1, or whatever level your class starts, and you can summon a max level player. As long as you have the same password code and your net connection is fine. There's no restriction. In the old games, it was like 10 or 15 levels up and below, right? So you weren't really going to get a max level player. You can in this, and they can help carry you through. So I can understand, like, okay, they don't want someone to carry someone all the way through, but really, it's an open world game, and that's how some people play. So if you're going to make the game where it's like anyone can get into it, and anyone can come in, and newcomers to it, and they can get a weapon, and they can explore and get good gear, and it doesn't have to be so challenging, it doesn't have to be impossible like the old games are if you haven't played them, right? If they want it to be that way, but then they want to make it where you can't do co-op, then that just seems stupid. Again, that's a personal gripe. Not all people are going to feel that way, obviously. I've seen people, say they love the way the system is, and I get that. But I just wanted to show you that I'm not just completely in love with this game. It's not all great and fanfare. It does have its problems. There are its glitches. There are, complications, and there's people that don't like certain features. So it's not completely perfect, but it is not Cyberpunk. It is not Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's not that bad. It doesn't have that many problems, and it is playable. So, in the standard of being 2022, and you want a game that's playable, enjoyable, very fun, and accessible to all players, you really can't go wrong with Elden Ring. I know this has been a long review, but that's pretty much a big over accumulation of different aspects of the game. I know that other reviewers might go into more detail, but just an overview of everything, and to give no spoilers. That's what I gotta say about it. And yes, I would recommend the game. I do think it's excellent, even with its problems, some minor and some not. I would say if you haven't got the game, try it out. I don't think you'll be upset with it. Until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.